The call came while I was refilling the coffee urn in the hotel lobby. It was 6:12 on a Tuesday morning, still dark outside except for the blue wash of the canopy lights over the front drive. A wind had come down overnight and left little trails of snow dust along the curb. Sioux Falls does that in March. It can look calm through the glass doors and still cut through your coat before you reach the parking lot. I had one hand on the stainless steel urn and the other wedged under the drip tray when my phone buzzed in my blazer pocket. It was Marcy from scheduling. "Nancy," she said, before I could even say hello. "Did you mean to block yourself off tomorrow afternoon?" I looked toward the lobby clock. A farmer from Mitchell was checking out early, tapping his cart against the counter like the machine might work faster if he scolded it. "Tomorrow afternoon?" I asked. "From noon to 5. It says family obligation. I'm trying to finalize the desk coverage for the regional visit." I set the coffee urn down harder than I meant to. A little coffee splashed over the rim and ran toward my sleeve. "I didn't block anything," I said. There was a pause. "You sure? It's under your availability. Not a request." "I'm sure." Marcy lowered her voice. "Your interview with Sandra is at 2, right?" "Yes. That interview had been circled in my head for 3 weeks. Assistant operations manager. Better pay, better hours, at least on paper. A way out of spending every other weekend smiling at guests who thought a hotel front desk supervisor also controlled road construction, airport delays, and the weather. "I'll clear it," Marcy said, "but I wanted to check before Sandra saw it." "Thank you," I said. "Please clear it." I wiped the coffee off the counter with a napkin and smiled at the farmer from Mitchell. "Receipt in the bag or email?" I asked. He said email. I gave him the same polite goodbye I gave everyone. The second the lobby emptied, I opened the scheduling app on the back office computer. There it was, just like Marcy said. Wednesday, 12 p.m., 5 p.m. Unavailable, family obligation. The note had been added Sunday night at 9:43. I had been home Sunday night. I had folded towels, watched half an episode of a baking show, and gone to bed early because William was already asleep, with the television still mumbling in the living room. I had not opened my work app. For a minute, I tried to make it into something smaller. A glitch, a misclick. Maybe I had checked the app half asleep and tapped the wrong thing. I am good at giving a problem a soft name first. It makes it easier to keep working. Then I remembered the tax organizer folder. It was sitting on our kitchen table when I left that morning, a thick blue folder with a rubber band around it. Alexandra's folder. William's mother had dropped it off the night before, after church, along with a loaf of banana bread wrapped in foil. "Just some papers for William to look at," she'd said. Alexandra always said, just before something that was going to become my job. I told myself not to start there. I had a lobby to run. At 9, the housekeeping supervisor called in sick. At 10:30, a guest in 214 insisted their room smelled like wet dog, even though we don't allow pets on the second floor. At 11, William texted me a picture of the old back steps at our house with the message, "We really need to get someone out for this before spring rain." I didn't answer. The house had belonged to his aunt before she died, and every repair in it felt like an inheritance with a bill attached. At lunch, I took my sandwich into the small break room behind the laundry chute and called William. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hey," he said. "Busy day? Did you open my work scheduling app Sunday night?" Silence. Not long. Not dramatic. Just enough. "Why would I do that?" he asked. That wasn't a no. "I might have checked your calendar." "Not your work thing." "My work availability got blocked for tomorrow afternoon." "Oh," he said. I waited. He sighed, like I had asked him to carry a couch up 3 flights of stairs. "Mom has the tax appointment tomorrow," he said. "I thought you knew." "No, William. I did not know." She told me she mentioned it. She mentioned a folder, not an appointment. She gets confused with these things. I stared at the vending machine across from me. A bag of pretzels had gotten stuck halfway down the spiral, caught there for whoever lost patience next. "My promotion interview is tomorrow at 2, I said. "I thought that was Thursday." "You thought wrong." "Well, I didn't know," he said. "And I didn't block anything at your hotel. I put it on the family calendar. It showed up in my work scheduling app." "That's not possible." He said it quickly. Too quickly. William. I used the tablet in the den, he said. It had your calendar open. Maybe they sync. I don't know how your hotel software works. You run a veterinary office. That doesn't mean I know your hotel software. I could hear phones ringing behind him, dogs barking in the background, someone laughing too loudly. He was at work. He had witnesses. That always made him calmer. I'm clearing the block, I said. Fine. But Mom still needs help. Then you take her. I have 2 staff out and a surgery day. And I have an interview. He didn't answer. That was the part that stayed with me later. Not a sentence, not an insult. Just the pause where my interview sat there, waiting to be considered real. I'll talk to you tonight, he said. No, I said. You'll talk to me now. Did you tell your mother I was taking her? I told her we'd figure it out. That means me. It means us. No, it means me. The break room door opened, and Devin from maintenance stuck his head in. Nancy, sorry. Guest in 118 says the heater's making a clicking noise. I covered the phone. Give me 2 minutes. William heard him. You're at work, he said. We'll talk later. He hung up before I could. I finished half my sandwich standing over the trash can. When I got home that evening, the tax organizer folder was still on the kitchen table. William was at the sink, rinsing a coffee mug. Alexandra was sitting in my chair. She had her coat folded over her lap and her purse tucked between her feet, as if she were waiting at a clinic, instead of sitting in our kitchen. At 74, she still dressed like every errand might lead to somebody important. Pressed slacks, earrings, lipstick that never reached the corners of her mouth. Nancy, she said. You look tired. I am. William gave me a look. Not a warning exactly. More like a request to be decent. I set my bag on the floor. Alexandra, did William tell you I was taking you to your tax appointment tomorrow? She blinked at me. He said you had the afternoon. I don't. Her eyes moved to William. He dried the mug slowly. I said I thought she did, he said. That is not the same thing, I said. Alexandra looked down at the folder. I can reschedule. She said it in a small voice. I hated that it worked on me a little. How long have you had the appointment? I asked. A couple weeks. A couple weeks. I didn't want to bother anyone until I had all the papers together. William set the mug in the cabinet. Mom needed help. It's not a crime. Nobody had called it a crime. That was one of William's habits. He argued against the worst version of what you hadn't said yet, so your real sentence looked unreasonable. By the time you got to it. My work availability was changed, I said. That is the problem. I told you I use the family calendar. You use the tablet where I'm logged into everything. You leave it open. I stared at him. He looked tired too. His hair was flattened on one side from his headset at the clinic, and there was a faint scratch on his wrist. Probably from somebody's nervous terrier. I knew his days were not easy. I knew his mother leaned on him until he leaned on me. That knowledge kept dragging me towards sympathy, even when I should have stayed angry. Alexandra touched the folder. I didn't know it would cause all this. I almost said, it always causes all this. Instead I said, I can't take you tomorrow. Her mouth tightened. William looked at me. What's she supposed to do? You take her. Or you call the tax office and reschedule. Or she asks their office if they do drop off. I don't like leaving papers with strangers, Alexandra said. I wanted to laugh. I did not. The folder sat between us, fat with bank statements, receipts, little paper memories of every dollar she did not want a stranger to touch. I have an interview, I said again. Alexandra nodded, but her eyes slid away from mine. William said, no one is saying you don't. But he was. They both were. Just not in those words. The next morning I left early enough to stop for gas. The wind was so sharp, it made my eyes water while I stood beside the pump. I wore my navy suit under my winter coat, the one suit I owned, that still made me feel like I could walk into a room and be taken seriously. At the hotel, Sandra Havel from Regional had already arrived. I saw her in the lobby at 8:15, wearing a camel coat and carrying a leather folio. She smiled when she saw me. Nancy. Looking forward to this afternoon. Me too, I said. The morning went clean for once. Rooms turned on time. No buses arrived early. The coffee machine behaved. I let myself believe the day might hold. At 11:37, my phone buzzed. Alexandra. I let it ring. It rang again. Then William. I let that ring too. Then the hotel line rang at the front desk. Devin answered because I was helping a guest with a billing dispute. Nancy said, holding out the phone. It's your mother-in-law. She says it's urgent. I took the receiver and turned toward the back wall. Alexandra? I'm sorry, she said, breathless. I'm at the tax office. My hand tightened around the phone. How did you get there? Dale brought me. But he can't stay. They say I'm missing the property tax statement from the house. The one William said you had in the blue folder. I don't have it. The folder is on my kitchen table. I know, but William said you knew where the statement was. Behind me, a guest laughed at something near the coffee station. The sound felt too bright. I'm at work, I said. I know, honey. I wouldn't call. But they said if I don't bring it today, they'll have to push me out 3 weeks. Then push it out. She went quiet. Then she said, William said you could run home at lunch. My interview was in 2 hours. I said, no, it came out too loud. Devin glanced over. I lowered my voice. No, Alexandra, I can't fix this today, but I'm already here. That doesn't change my answer. I hung up with my hand shaking. For the next 20 minutes, I kept working. I checked in a couple from Rapid City. I printed a receipt. I told housekeeping to hold $312 for maintenance. I did the motions. I have always been good at doing the motions. Then Sandra stepped out of the conference room. Nancy, she said gently, do you need to take care of a family matter before we sit down? No, I said too fast. Her eyes moved to the front desk phone, then back to me. There have been a few calls. A few. I looked at Devin. He looked apologetic. Your husband called too, he said. I told him you were with guests. Sandra's smile stayed polite, but something had shifted. I could see it. She was not judging me exactly. She was measuring. At 1:52, I went into the interview with my notebook, my pen, and a pulse in my throat. The questions were normal. Staffing conflict. Guest recovery. Revenue during weather cancellations. I had answers for all of them. Good answers. Answers earned from 16 years of standing at front desks while everyone else got to be surprised by problems. Halfway through, my phone buzzed again. I had forgotten to silence it. I reached to turn it off. Sandra noticed. So, she said, still polite, work-life interruptions are clearly part of the role. How do you protect operations from personal spillover? It was a fair question. It also landed like a hand around my wrist. I gave an answer about delegation and boundaries and written coverage. It sounded fine. It sounded like something a person says after reading the job description twice. Sandra nodded. I knew I had lost something, not the job. Not yet, but a layer of confidence. A little click in her mind that had moved from Nancy is ready to Nancy has complications. That evening, I came home to find the blue tax folder open on the kitchen table. William was sitting beside it, his elbows on his knees. Alexandra was on the couch, still in her coat, looking smaller than usual. The property tax statement was on top of the folder. I picked it up. It had been there the whole time. No one spoke. I looked at William. You told her I had this. He rubbed his face. I thought you did. It was in the folder. I didn't check every page. But you told her I knew where it was. Alexandra sat forward. He said you usually handle those papers. I do, I said. That doesn't mean I should be interrupted at work, because nobody else looked. Her face hardened. There she was. The soft helplessness dropped away for a second, and the older version of Alexandra looked out. You've always been better with forms, she said. I didn't think it was such a terrible thing to ask. You didn't ask. You called my job. William stood. She was stranded at the tax office. She was not stranded. Dale drove her. He had to get back. Then you should have left the clinic. I couldn't. But I could? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Alexandra looked between us, irritated now. This is exactly why I didn't want to make a fuss. William said you'd be upset if we asked directly. I turned to her. What did you just say? She pressed her lips together. William said, Mom, no. I said, let her answer. Alexandra smoothed one hand over her purse. He said you were sensitive about work right now, that you were trying for some hotel promotion and didn't want family things on your plate. A laugh came out of me, one dry little sound. So the solution was to put family things on my plate quietly? William said, I was trying to keep it from becoming a fight. It became a fight anyway. He looked at the floor. I should have stopped there. I should have asked for the records, like a grown woman with sense. Who changed what? Who called where? What exactly had been said? Instead, I trusted the familiar shape of the room. Alexandra fragile, William practical, me difficult. I picked up the tax folder and dropped it in front of him. Then you handle it, I said. All of it. Forms, calls, appointments, rides. If your mother needs paperwork, she calls you. Alexandra made a small offended noise. William's jaw tightened. You don't get to punish her because you're mad at me, he said. I'm not punishing her. I'm returning the job to the person who volunteered me. He said nothing. I went upstairs before I said something worse. Thursday morning, Marcy caught me by the vending machines. I didn't want to bring this up yesterday, she said, but Sandra asked if your availability was stable for the next quarter. I felt my stomach sink. What did you say? I said yes. Of course. Thank you. She also asked who else has access to your scheduling. I closed my eyes for 1 second. Marcy lowered her voice. Nancy, does someone at home have your login? They did, I said. She nodded once. Not nosy. Just tired in the way working women get tired when they recognize a problem and know better than to ask for the whole story in a hallway. Change it, she said. I did. Good. The interview decision came Friday afternoon. Sandra called me into the small office off the lobby, the one with the printer that jammed if you looked at it wrong. The general manager, Paul, sat beside her. He wouldn't meet my eyes at first, which told me enough. You're staying in your current role, Sandra said. We value you. That hasn't changed. There are sentences managers use when something has changed. Paul folded his hands. The concern is timing. The assistant operations role needs someone who can be fully available during the transition period. I am available, I said. Sandra's face softened. I believe you want to be. That was worse than if she had doubted my competence. We're going with Colin for now, Paul said. You'll remain front desk supervisor. We can revisit after the summer season. Colin was 28 and still asked me how to handle chargebacks. I nodded. My mouth had gone dry. Is there feedback? I asked. Sandra looked at her folio. The interview itself was strong. But we had the availability block. Multiple family calls during the interview window and some concern from scheduling that your calendar access wasn't secure. None of those are disqualifying alone. I heard that word and looked at my hands. Understood, I said. I did not cry in the office. I did not explain William or Alexandra. I thanked them both, went back to the desk, and checked in a family of 4 from Brookings with a smile that made my cheeks hurt. When I got home, William was in the driveway copying a key. He had the little brass blank in one hand and the old key in the other. A hardware store bag sat on the hood of his truck. For Mom, he said when he saw me. In case she needs to get in while we're at work. I stood there in my hotel blazer, name tag still pinned to my chest. No. He looked up. Nancy, I lost the promotion. The words came out plain. No build-up. No softened edge. William's face changed, but not enough. What do you mean lost? They gave it to Colin. He winced. I'm sorry. Are you? That's not fair. Your mother called my job during the interview window. You changed my availability. Sandra asked if my calendar access was secure. He looked at the key in his hand. I didn't mean for that to happen. But it happened. Alexandra opened the front door then, as if she had been waiting for her name to enter the air. She had a cardigan around her shoulders and the tax folder tucked under one arm. I don't need to be the reason for all this, she said. I looked at her. Then stop letting him make me responsible for you. Her chin lifted. I didn't make you lose anything. No, you called my workplace because neither one of you opened a folder. William said my name quietly. I turned back to him. Give me the key. He didn't move. For once, I said, do not make me ask twice. He dropped the blank into my palm. Then, slowly, he handed me the old key too. I walked to the side door, removed Alexandra's copy from the hook, and put all 3 keys in my coat pocket. William watched me. What are you doing? He asked. Making sure the right people have access. I went inside, past Alexandra, past the tax folder, past the smell of pot roast. She must have started in my kitchen while I was at work. Upstairs, I changed out of my blazer and hung it carefully in the closet. The promotion was gone. The job was not. I still had to be at the hotel by 7 the next morning. Because weddings do not care who gets promoted. When When I came back down, William was at the kitchen table. Alexandra sat across from him. The tax folder lay between them. I set the old key on the table in front of William. "One copy," I said. "Yours?" "Not hers, not Dale's." "Not anyone who thinks my workday is spare time." Alexandra stared at me. "That is unnecessary. It wasn't your key." William rubbed his forehead. "Can we not do this tonight?" "No," I said. "We do it tonight because tomorrow I go back to work in the same job I had yesterday for less money than I should have had." He looked away. For a moment, nobody spoke. The house creaked in the wind. Somewhere in the kitchen wall, the old pipes ticked like they always did when the heat kicked on. Then William pulled the tax folder toward himself. "Mom," he said, "tired?" "What time is your follow-up?" Alexandra blinked. "I don't know," she said. "Nancy usually." William looked at me, then back at her. "What time?" he asked again. She opened the folder with stiff fingers and started looking through the papers herself. I stood there long enough to see her find the appointment card. Then I went to the sink and washed my hands, though they were already clean. The water ran warm over my fingers. Behind me, William asked his mother for the accountant's number. I did not turn around. The key stayed on the table, copied for the right person, and no one else.